Former NBA player and assistant coach Damon Jones just pleaded guilty to 2 counts of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. He is the first of 34 defendants charged by the Department of Justice to plead guilty. Jones was facing 2 counts of wire fraud in 2 separate cases, one for tipping off sports bettors with inside information before games, and another for rigging poker games across the country. Jones entered his plea in the same courthouse where former NBA player Terry Rozier appeared just yesterday for a hearing tied to his own sports betting case. Prosecutors say they plan to file even more charges against Rozier in mid-May. They allege he solicited and accepted a bribe. Rozier was also facing 2 federal wire fraud charges, and unlike Jones, Rozier has pleaded not guilty. So, are prosecutors looking for a half-court three-pointer or a slam dunk in this case? Joining us now, forgive my sports metaphors there, former tennis professional Patrick McEnroe and former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani. Patrick, as a former professional athlete, I want to start with you. Damon Jones was the first to plead guilty. Prosecutors wrote that he, quote, converted his fame and his ties to professional basketball into a multifaceted criminal betting operation. What's your reaction to the fact that he actually is pleading guilty here?
Well, first of all, Elizabeth, not the pomp and circumstance that we saw at the White House in this story. So, look, I'm not here to come on live television to convict Terry Rozier, right? I'll leave that to the prosecutors. He deserves due process like anyone else. So does Mr. Jones. But the allegation itself, Elizabeth, and you've been on this for a while. You and I have discussed this in the past. This is absolutely terrifying for sports because it's really hitting the nerve of the entire business. I mean, fans can live with missed shots and their team losing and strange stat lines. What they can't live with, Elizabeth, is wondering whether a substitution or a missed rebound or an injury exit or one weird moment was connected to the bet. So the danger here, of course, it's about fixing games, but it's not just about that. The danger is in fixing moments. And I think that professional sports is way behind the guardrails that need to be put in place to make sure this doesn't become a bigger problem, not just in pro sports, but in college sports as well.
Neama, what does it mean that Damon Jones pled guilty? Did he feel that the evidence was so strong he didn't have a chance of beating it?
Well, first, Patrick's absolutely right. There are a lot of people watching that believe the NBA is rigged. But with respect to Jones, there are really 2 sets of charges. There's the sports gambling charges, the insider trading. But really what prosecutors had him dead to rights on were the rigged poker games. There's significantly more exposure. It's a much cleaner case, and the amount of the loss is significantly higher. So I think his lawyers, they saw the writing on the wall and said, look, here's someone who's going to go down for the poker games. We might as well be the first to plead guilty and cooperate. In doing so, he shaved off more than a year of his sentence because there's no way he was going to beat the poker charges, even if he had a shot with respect to the sports gambling.
Well, you just said the key word, Neama, which is cooperate, because the first thing you wonder when somebody takes a plea deal like that is, are they going to flip and testify against others?
No question. And usually the first people to flip and cooperate end up getting the best deal. And he was the first of 34. When you prosecute a case like this as an assistant U.S. attorney, you're not going to take dozens of people to trial. It just doesn't make sense. It ends up being a circus. Each witness gets cross-examined by multiple defense attorneys. So what you have to do is flip those less culpable people against the people you believe are the most responsible. So this is just the first domino to fall, Elizabeth. It's not just going to be Jones. There are going to be others as well in the coming weeks and months.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.